Welcome in. We did it. 500.
We're back.
It was a tall climb. 3 straight wins needed.
3 straight wins to climb to 500. Tough game to really find anything bad about.
You must hate that.
No, it was the FU Kendrick Perkins game from Tatum and Brown.
Yeah.
Look, people have been killing them, right? Not killing them, but can we see them play well together? They played well together. But we're going to start the show off with Bobby Manning telling us what Dennis Schroeder did wrong tonight.
Ooh, that turnover in the second quarter.
Remember he missed that shot? Get him out of there.
No, this is the Schroeder from early in the season. I always said he was a big boost to this team early this year when Tatum was in the dumps and Brown was in and out.
Walk it back.
But
here comes the trade smart people.
This is probably his best game since, say, early December. It's been a while now since he's had one of these, so he was obviously struggling there badly for a while.
Because he's being held back.
I don't think so. I mean, it's a similar role to what he's doing usually. You know, he comes off the bench, whatever. It's almost like the Rozier thing too. Remember that? Like he would come off the bench and it'd just be sloppy and awkward and the numbers would be way down, but he'd still be playing a ton of minutes. He'd still have plenty of opportunities to play with the best guys, but he gets in the starting unit and he's puffing out his chest a little bit more, and all of a sudden the big numbers start flowing and he looks great.
Yeah, the shots fall. I mean, he hit 4 threes tonight. I mean, that was the difference. And
Mm-hmm.
the third quarter he came up huge actually. Starting that third quarter after that horrible end to the second quarter for the Celtics. So it was good to see them kind of retake control of that game after that drought. So yeah, he was a part of it.
That second was awful.
Dennis Schroeder's not the story of the game, or we just like to give Bobby crap.
No, he's up there. He's up there.
Tonight, Marcus Smart is out with an injury, and Peyton Pritchard doesn't play. Dennis Schroeder is the B storyline. The A storyline is Tatum and Brown both playing well together in the same game, not just well, a relatively efficient manner. It wasn't jacking tons of shots. They both shot well from the field. They had a couple of stretches of loosey-goosey turnover, which you don't want to see again. Just some sloppy ball handling just from those guys. But beyond that, pretty friggin' clean game, aggressive, attacking. Again, Tatum did some of his things where it's like, I don't love all of it. But look, scorers are going to have to take some shots. What you really want to see from Tatum is be decisive and make his decision, just do it quicker. When Tatum gets deliberate and he holds it is usually where he gets himself into trouble. He's just got to make his decisions faster. I felt like he did that tonight.
Yeah, and this was a 2020 kind of game from him. You remember that stretch there before the bubble where him and Brown would just combine for 25 each every night, it felt like, through that February and March.
Exactly.
Just going back and forth, trading off fairly well, not doing a ton of actions together, but pretty cleanly hitting shots back and forth and getting downhill and taking good quality shots. You essentially saw Indy in that drop that those guys used to kill back then, just stepping around screens and getting wide open looks from deep here. This team has struggled so much from three, not even just the guys like Richardson and Schroeder and Smart, those guys that you would expect to struggle from there. But, Tatum and Brown have even had their fair share of struggles from deep this year. So to see them go out and just nail them methodically to start the game like that essentially took Indy out of it pretty early. And everything from there is just kind of whatever. I didn't like the second quarter at all, but you build that kind of lead for yourself early in a game.
You could see
you're still going to win, even with this team. Grandy talked about that on the radio the last few games here. They build these, what do we want to say, 15-point leads. They're still winning more of those pretty decisively than they are. And, even when they go down by double digits, they're still a better record than when they take those double-digit leads.
There's just but every time they've lost, and every time they've had to sweat it out, it's the same thing where they've started to get comfortable. They stop valuing possessions. Defensive focus and intensity starts to wane, and teams go on quick runs, and all your hard work gets wiped fast. Why be up 14-15 for an entire half and then just fall asleep for 3 minutes? And then
and every team gives up runs. They play different.
Yeah, but they completely, and that's going to happen. Other teams are going to get hot, but they completely, it feels like they collapse both sides, offense and defense at the same time, and it happens so fast to them. Those are the mental lapses you have to avoid. But again, they came out sharp in the third, and then it was white knuckle time entering the fourth. Is it going to be one of those quarters? And it wasn't. So great. You put away a bad team, you kept them at arm's reach the whole game. Great, done. That's what you're supposed to do. So clean game in that regard, minus that little spell in the second.
Yeah.
Jimmy, say something with your new microphone.
Oh, sign. I'm getting used to my new camera over here and everything else. So if
he's blinded by the lights.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm with you guys. It was nice to see them. I mean, I wonder how many games that both scored 30 plus in the same game. I'm sure.
I was looking, like, was this the most ever for them? I don't think it was, because we probably would have heard it, but it's right up there, definitely.
Yeah, it had to be. Yeah, and
most points ever in the first quarter, though. That was a great stat scout threw out there between the two, 24.
And it was a game where Indy had, more players than they did in the first one. I mean, LeVert played, Brogdon played. So this was a more legitimate win as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they obviously played much better tonight. Now, I don't want to. I mean, we have to talk about the fact that Marcus Smart didn't play in this game, and this was the offense, and this was the outcome. I mean, is there a correlation there, Bobby, or is it just kind of?
Well, Smart didn't play well on Monday. I said that he was dreadful in that game, and it was almost like a boost when he went down. Overall, this year the numbers are pretty overwhelmingly better when he's out there, though, just with the passing and the organization skills he's able to bring. Like Schroeder, this is my thing with him, and we'll get into it.
Here we go.
Here.
Here we go.
He gets a lot of assists. And, the numbers look good there, but he's not a guy who really organizes much. Like, he gets into great positions himself, draws some defense there, and hits some guys. He gets downhill so quickly. He had some nice drives and catching drives in this one. But Smart is still by far the better organizer to me. Like, you don't see many pick and rolls through Schroeder. You don't see him setting guys up. And a lot of time you see him freelancing, which is what drives me craziest about him. The scoring is talented there. Like, he can really score the ball, but a lot of times I feel like that's his only offensive skill, which is a great one to have, certainly, but it's not necessarily what they need. John, I think you said during the game that it's just a lot of guys on this team who do the same thing, and he's just another one who can really score at his best, but he's not a facilitator.
He is, but the thing is, if you're moving the ball, you're creating matchups, you're avoiding double teams from coming over to people, and you're creating situations where people who can get downhill, like Schroeder, are able to do so without as much cluster, So when they're moving, if they're holding it, if Schroeder just dribble, and then tries to break his guy down, he's basically turning himself into Tatum, or Brown, or when they do that. But when the ball is swinging, you see how many times Schroeder tonight, he'd get it on a catch and go. And before the defense had a chance to reset, he was gone because he's so fast. So that is something he brings to the table that obviously Marcus doesn't, that I think gets taken for granted because we just put it in the same bucket as Dennis can score. But he does so. It works in an offense where they are whipping the ball around a little bit more. And he's able to take advantage of it because of his physical,
I'm interested to see the on-off
attributes.
stats for both of them. I'm going to pull those up while Jimmy kind of gives his take here.
My take on what? Smart versus
Smart and Schroeder. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Bobby. I mean, we all know that Schroeder doesn't really set things up. I mean, he rolls the ball up or walks the ball up. He kind of looks for his shot first, which is fine. I mean, he's a scoring guard. But the thing I've always liked about Schroeder is that he's quick, he's fast, he's active. He can drive better than practically anybody, much better than Smart, and he can whip the ball around when he's asked to. And I honestly think that he's playing the way that Ime wants him to play, or else Ime wouldn't be playing him as much. He still gets plenty of burn. I know tonight he kind of had to, but even when they are fully, Smart's in the game or whatnot, like I don't think the way Schroeder plays bothers Ime. So there's no reason for him to change his style. I think we've talked about it before. So many nights he's given them points that they've desperately needed. And
Ime likes him. That's pretty clear, right? Like he doesn't go away from him very much.
No, I think he definitely likes him. I mean, we saw him go to we saw him go away from him in the fourth quarter last game, but that had more to do, I think, with the Pacers lineups than maybe Schroeder himself, and the fact that Smart was out too. But no, I like what he's given them, and that's why I've been so against like railing on him for an off night or when he does something stupid, because I do think that he's helped them way more than hurt them this season. And the only reason they're going to trade him is because of their own fault, their own standing, not because of him. So I hope people understand that. I'm sure most people do. They're not trading him because he's bad.
You'd like to keep him, right? We kicked that around early in the year. Could you do it? He's a
Schroeder?
good player to have. Yeah, it's
Look,
just
the dilemma.
The more
with
he
Schroeder,
plays, I'll say this: the more he plays, the less I think he's going to cash in big somewhere. But I still think he's having a good season. Like that $80 million contract, that's gone. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to get. I don't think he's going to get 10 a year from anybody. So I think he's like, or maybe he will get 10 a year. I mean, maybe that's like his peak, for a few year deal, that's really not that much money, I guess, in the NBA these days. But I think the Celtics have an outside shot if they kept him. But things would have to.
I think that's where he is. He's in the mid-level, maybe plus.
Like a big
depending.
mid-level,
He might be a Richardson contract, like whatever that is. He might 12, 13, 14, Tice got that 14, like I think he's above a mid-level guy. He's a mid-level guy when all the chips fall and you can't find a place to sign and a team's got a mid-level and there he signs, he could be better than that. It's still above what the Celtics can play. But I mean, the Schroeder thing is what we've always discussed. It's whether I know he's polarizing. I know it just cracks me up that we call it a roller coaster. Like the analysis around him just blows my mind. He'll have a game like tonight. There was way more negative Dennis Schroeder Twitter and call outs than there was positive tonight. And every time someone says
every night.
When he has a good game, people concede it. Like, I guess Dennis was fine. But it's like people are looking for stuff for this guy. He's an imperfect player. We all know that. He makes them better. But if you can get anything of value for him at the deadline, that's fine. I do not want to sell Dennis Schroeder so Wick gets under the tax for a second-round pick. Or so Wick saves a buck. That's stupid to me. But if Schroeder gets you
but there's some ancillary benefits to that. Pritchard plays more. You maybe a little bit
worse. Some, but like I said, that's why Pritchard minutes aren't a necessity.
But don't you want depth though, especially at that position? Like you're going to trade Schroeder, and then all of a sudden, okay, fine, Pritchard can play, but now what? Smart gets hurt, or Pritchard gets hurt. Now what? Like
Brown and Tatum are in that spot a lot of the time, and
but
they didn't have a point guard out there at all in the last game.
Schroeder's by no means the answer.
But that's not ideal.
Schroeder's by no means the answer at point guard. He's also not the playmaker these guys need. Shots. Right. He's not. But there's things that he do. Like I said, there's things Schroeder does because of who he is. Draws attention to himself. He's someone you have to worry about. He can blow by. He can draw help. And he's explosive. And when things aren't going well, he's a guy who gets easy buckets where a lot of people on the team don't. So there's things for the offense he does that aren't conventional. Almost like and then there's things that are, which is just scoring the basketball, which is a good thing. But it's like sometimes the benefit of him is different. In the same way, Rob, just the attention that he garners. Right. Marcus Smart garners no attention. Okay. None. So yes, he can set the ball up and yes, he can facilitate. He is not a person you have to account for at any point in time when you're defending the Celtics at all. So Schroeder, you do, and that's different. That puts stress on the defense to a little bit. You have to account for Rob.
It depends.
You have to account for Rob, whether he scores a lot. You account for him, and it's something else you have to worry about. You do not have to pay attention to Marcus Smart at all. Doesn't mean he can't run the offense and set people up, and he's clearly the best passer that they have, but he's not running an offense that's like functioning at a super high level.
He's certainly not running a good offense.
He's not running a good offense. And he's also
you can be the manager of a hotel, but if it's the freaking Red Roof Inn, like congrats, yes, like.
So I hate doing the Schroeder played well, so Smart's the problem thing off of one game. I just don't think that's right. But again, I do think,
listen, it's a team that's starving for points, and you have a guy in Schroeder who gets points pretty easily, and you have a guy in Smart who struggles to get points but does pretty much everything else. So that's the trade-off you're looking at there. It's great to have both. I actually
he does everything but score.
I like them both in the backcourt to start this year. That was a pairing I like because you do have a little bit of the scoring there. You have a little bit of the defense with Smart, and they're both pretty tenacious defenders. Ultimately, in terms of like the intensity they play with at that end, the shooting just really started to bog those two down. Eventually, like there's just nothing between those two in that department. So all of a sudden, one ends up getting a little bit of the bad break there, and really over the last 2 or 3 games here, you haven't seen those guys together at all, which is a killer. When Pritchard's out, you start to probably mix him in a little bit more with each of them here, which is good. But it's kind of a logjam there, and you do think like if you're wondering about Schroeder's long-term prospects here, it is kind of a smarter Schroeder question. The tricky thing is there's no guarantee that Schroeder stays. Like he could look at another situation and say, this will be better for me. There'll certainly be more money out there.
He's a hired gun. I don't expect him to be back. I'm
not expecting him to be back either. You know what the other thing is, I'll say real quick. Both these guys, Smart and Schroeder, are like the perfect 6 men.
Yeah.
Like on a really good team. They're completely different players, really, when you think about it. But they offer so much to a team in a number of ways.
Here's the thing, though. If you do plan on moving off Smart, or at least heavily considering that, wouldn't be the worst idea to keep Schroeder at that spot. This is the thing the Celtics can offer Schroeder. There's money considerations here. There's a million other things. Isn't pretty much every team in the NBA set at point guard? The Celtics are probably like one of 2 or 3 that have a ton of minutes to offer a guy there. I think that's a big reason he's here for $5 million in the first place. And it could be a reason he's back next year if they end up going in a different direction there at guard. The trade-off you're asking, and this is something John alluded to earlier in the show, is it worth 2 seconds? Is it worth getting below the tax? Like, what's the benefit of just getting rid of him, not having him here? Some people don't like him. I'm not in that camp. Like, I criticize him because I'm not one of these guys who says just get rid of him, like for no reason. Like, I don't think there's.
You actually did say just get rid of him.
No, you want to get something for him. 2 seconds.
No, you just want to see Pritchard more. That's literally it for you. You don't need to see it. You don't need anything.
I do, but I'm coming from the assumption that he's going to be gone. If you feel there's a chance you can keep him, there's value in that.
I do not feel there's a chance you can keep him.
Then you trade him.
You don't always do that because it's the same thing we talked about. Because if you get nothing, you're better off keeping him, and because he makes your team better. If he was in the way of someone, like if I believed Pritchard had a future beyond a guy who's going to play a few minutes a game coming off a bench, I'd say get him out of there. And I don't mind that.
What makes you think Pritchard doesn't, though? Have we seen enough of him?
I think they know. In the same way, I think they have a good idea. Why aren't Neesmith and Romeo playing despite our protestation here? Because they've probably seen enough of these guys. Yeah, but they've seen enough of these guys to know what they are. And I think Pritchard has Pritchard's ceiling is pretty clear. I'm not going to weep if they trade Schroeder and Pritchard starts playing more minutes, but if you're getting next to nothing, I don't really see the point of getting rid of somebody. I think you can keep Schroeder and still find a way to give Pritchard more minutes if it's important to you down the stretch. It doesn't matter. I just don't see going into Tankapalooza mode for a bunch of second-round picks and to save Wick a buck. That does nothing for me.
What did Cleveland get recently? What was the trade they made for?
They got Rondo.
Oh, they got Rondo. What'd they give up? Do you know?
Valentine.
Yeah. I mean, like really the only way I can see Schroeder being traded for something of value is if a good team loses a point guard.
Has an emergency,
due to injury. And
that happened.
I know it did happen, but it's got to happen again. Now it has to happen again.
It happened. The Celtics didn't pick up the phone fast enough. Do you want? Nope, we got Rondo. Damn it!
Oh, and it cost them nothing.
They were able to get Rondo for less, and that makes sense, I guess. But
that's the predicament in this trade season. No one wants to give up stuff.
Here's a question:
at the end of the day,
I'm just throw this out there. 2 seconds. Would Rondo have been a good trade for the Celtics to make if they need type of a guy that can maybe run the offense a little bit?
I wouldn't have hated it. I wouldn't have. I mean, that's the kind of guy you need there. He's a minimum guy at this point. So you could have traded Bruno Fernando for him or something. All the Lakers wanted to do was clear a roster spot there. They just ended up rerouting Valentine to the Knicks. I mean, I would have been for it. I wouldn't have hated it.
You talk about leadership sort of thing like that. I mean, I know Rondo has had his issues with, generally speaking, but I think he's an extremely smart basketball mind, and
Post Dallas, he's been helpful to a lot of different teams. He's been a champion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I'm a huge Rondo guy. That's why I brought it up. I think that the Celtics are lacking like that type of a player and attitude and personality. And
it's just
somebody
where
that
do
they
his
can
minutes
pick
come
again,
from? You know,
sort of.
like you got Smart, you got Schroeder. Those guys
Yeah,
are pretty
that's
much
the
eating
thing.
all your point guard minutes there. He doesn't shoot. That certainly is an issue that would
Right.
still be pretty substantial there. So you would have probably had to move off like a Schroeder in that situation. And because this is the issue with the Celtics right now. They're playing really thin. Ime's not a guy who's going to sprinkle down and mix and match and do all this different kind of
Well,
stuff.
that's the thing we wanted to see, because we just
Yeah.
want to see, like I said, you're that guy just messing around at the bar and seeing if you can like invent a drink, like we don't, oh, this tastes good, I didn't expect it, or this is really bad, because we don't care about the season, because nobody views this as a contending team. That's why I say experiment a little bit with some combinations, see if you unlock something you'd never known.
That is hard for a first year coach.
And it's hard
out
for a
by the
first year
end.
coach. Yeah. Right. So that's why I want to see it. Not because we think they're good. Like like I said, you don't even have to put a gun to my head. If you just ask me straight up, are Nesmith and Romeo going to be, solid NBA players? I'd be like, no. Like I don't think so, based on what I've seen. I'm kind of a quick judge on things. I'm not impressed at all, but I want to see. I think there's a world in which you might be able to get something out of them, or develop them, or make them work with other people with something where you get more than what you're seeing or what we've been seeing for so much of the year. Right.
I think Ime was asked about this morning. The minutes here, and they're not bad tonight in a blow up, but again, 37 for Tatum, 27 for Al with Rob.
That's a lot, man.
Rob had like that 10-minute stitching session, and Horford just got nailed with minutes there. Even in a blowout here, these are pretty heavy minutes. 35 for Brown, 34 for Schroeder. Like you're just nailing some of these guys with minutes. Even Smart going down, I saw was top 12 in the league in minutes. So you're kind of nailing guys, especially Horford. You cannot be playing him 30 minutes right now at the rate that he has been.
I said it on the text thread. I want this to be the last game they start double big. But Horford actually played a good game tonight.
He did, a little fresher.
I mean, offensively, it's still not great, but he definitely looked. He had a little bit more jump. He had the great little move in the post there. He was moving the ball. I thought he did a decent job.
Yeah.
He did a good job defending, tonight as well. So again, the threes just aren't falling. At this point, he has to just not shoot them anymore. It's
so hard on this team though, isn't it? Someone has
I know. It's that bad. But he was fine, man. I mean, the bigs had decent games for in terms of statistically for Indiana, but I mean, that Celtics first unit just mopped the floor with Indiana starters tonight. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, they broke down that drop defense. And
they destroyed them.
Sabonis and Turner out there, like it's so easy to swing them and get guys out of the paint and get downhill. And Turner's tough in the post, but he's not really a guy who's going to stand out there and be this deadly switching guy like an Ayton. So you made pretty easy work of a defense that you should have been able to easily work here. And you look at Brogdon and Revert and
Brogdon was limited.
Yeah, you can go at those guys as the bigger wings there. So you really asserted your will offensively in this one, which was great to see. Big one on Friday. Like now it's really like, all right, back to some real competition here. And let's see now that you're playing well if you can close out a game. But, they've played Philly well this year, haven't they? Like they had that terrible closing stretch in the last home game, but they did win that.
I was just thinking you need Horford against Embiid too, so you're not gonna. There's no way you're gonna.
Chicago is probably a more interesting one on Saturday in that regard. They're more like spread it out run and versatility. So you're looking at double big for another game on Friday for sure.
I mean, you're looking at it forever because I think Ime loves it. He friggin', he sleeps with it under his pillow. Like that's what he. It's his favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
So great. 500 heading back into Philly. A couple things I wanted to talk about today. Well, let's talk about Tatum and Brown. What'd you like specifically about those guys tonight? What's funny is a reversal. Where Tatum started out hot, then kind of disappeared, and then Jalen just friggin'. And that's the thing, when he goes on those streaks, man, he is just hard to stop. He's just, and then he went on one of those tears.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead, Jimmy.
I was gonna say, I mean, you asked what I liked about it. I mean, the shots fell. I don't really think they played a whole lot different, to be completely
No.
honest. I mean, it wasn't like they were whipping
That's
the ball
why I'm
around.
wondering. I don't want to be that jerk about it. Like, was there a huge difference in their style? I thought they were a little bit more decisive. I didn't think they held the ball as long, but there was still some stuff which was one-on-one. The shots were falling, though.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should fall. I mean, they both shot well for three. I'll give you that, John. I thought they were a little bit more like pointed in what they were wanting to do. I didn't see them like leaving their feet and looking around frantically to like dish the ball off. We talked a little bit about some of the turnovers, and they played like crap in the end of the second quarter, but everybody did. But I mean, you asked me what I like. I like that the shots fell. I mean, at the end of the day, and
Is that it?
we read something. There was something going on in our chat earlier today about Tatum has to hit those shots. If he's not, the Celtics aren't good enough. And I think they compare. It was the Ringer. It was a Ringer article, right?
So I
Yep.
pulled that up, Jimmy, because I was going to go to that because I wanted to talk about it. So
Okay. Sorry.
No, but I'm glad you segued there because that's kind of what I wanted to go to is the shots fell tonight, and it might not be more complicated than that. For all the analysis and anything that you'll do to try to break down what it is that's happening with them, at the end of the day, Jason Tatum specifically is worse at the thing that he was best at a couple of years ago, which is hitting shots in your freaking face. The degree of difficulty on a lot of his buckets was extremely high, and that's what made him great. And so then you're trending into Kevin Durant land or Melo in his prime, which is like, it doesn't matter. He's going to take you one-on-one. He's going to go up and over you, and he's going to shoot. He's going to score, or Harden, when he's in one of his stretches, and he's going to do it with defense all over him, and he's going to get his shot off clean because it's a strength of his, and he's going to hit an insane percentage of them to the point that you have to adjust your entire defense to account for it. And that's what isn't happening this year. Tatum's numbers are down 2 straight years in all of his shooting metrics. This was the excerpt from the Ringer. Celtics could continue as they have, reshuffling the roster from season to season, banking the 2 All-Stars, figuring it out. Yet, even in doing so, they'd eventually be forced to confront the fact that the team built around Tatum and Brown tend to wobble more than most. Night-to-night stability in the NBA comes from one of 2 places: first-class playmaking or first-class shot making. The former is a no-go, which we all agree. Tatum has improved enough as a distributor to hit some of his own teammates. Not so much he won't rifle a pass, over Williams' head of the sideline. The shot making is where things get more interesting and where Tatum seems to have earned the Celtics' patience. The 23-year-old can hit tough shots, contested jumpers with the best of them, though not quite as reliably. Therein lies the damning difference. To anchor a contending team while playing the style Tatum does, he needs to hit the impossible shots at the level of Durant and Kawhi Leonard. He needs to convert those looks with such consistency that defenses overreact, turning strength into structure. Anything less leaves the offense teetering with every miss. Yeah. That is as good a description as what is going on with the team. Anything less, teetering with every miss, and all the more dramatically when Brown's own attempts to create turn chaotic, which happens because Brown all of a sudden gets a little wild trying to do too much himself. You can say some of that is a byproduct of what's around them, which is they have to force the issue because there is nobody else there, and I think that's fair. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to just Tatum's just not making as many shots as he was before. And
Who
if he
wrote
was,
that, John? I forget.
Rob Mahoney.
Mahoney for the Ringer.
Well, he definitely watches. He definitely watches because
that is a strong perspective. Where
you got
you look
that nice anecdote from Monday with the head pass.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to. It is, it's so cliche, the make miss league thing. But really, when Tatum pre-bubble and then a little bit post, the All-Star break Tatum in the pandemic year, and then that post-bubble where he was just dropping stuff, it didn't matter. He could hit everything. Right. That was all right, this guy is unstoppable. But now he's stoppable. Those shots just don't fall. And when they're not falling, we're 40-something games into the year. He's 41-32 on his splits. That's pretty bad. He's now this year, he's just a volume scorer. He's not a deadly assassin, who's just this lights out guy who's just going to put it in your eye. He can be, but he's not consistent.
Stretches.
Yeah, he's just not consistent.
So I love the George Kawhi comparison, and obviously those guys are a different level. They join forces deeper in their careers. it's going to take some time in that regard for them to get the chemistry, just like it took with those two in LA. I guess what you're going to need for it to hit like it's hit out there in LA is you're going to need kind of one of the two of them to reach George levels playmaking. Having near Kawhi defense from one of them would be nice as well. But, Kawhi stepped up as a playmaker as well, probably worse so than George, but he's the higher level scorer of the two there. So, you're probably looking at Brown to kind of be the Kawhi in that dynamic, be this guy who's an incredibly efficient scorer, can do it from three levels, who can play with a ton of pace and be a great defender. That's still what I kind of want to see from Brown at his best here. He hasn't been that the last few years, even though he's got the skills there. Tatum's the guy still I look at, and I don't know how you feel about this, John, but I still see high-level playmaking with him, just from the passes that he's able to make, the skill that he has, the leverage that he has on the floor with the amount of defenders that he draws. Those are things that I think he really allows him to, I think, eventually be like a 6-7 assist a game guy. But he's got to really focus on that every single game. It's still the scoring that he's more first and foremost focused on.
So I think he gets flustered by pressure, and sometimes he is trying to force
pressure?
Doubles and crowds at the rim.
He gets flustered by pressure when he gets into traffic, when he gets into doubles, when
contact too.
When he's trying to get to a spot and he doesn't get there as cleanly as he wants, when the path isn't as he had conceived it, whatever that was, which is he's trying to get to his spot. He's trying to get somewhere and it's harder. Then he starts to get out of sorts. He shoots more off balance and his passes are a little bit kind of more, not, the more like, I've got to pass instead of I want to pass, or like, crap, I've run into a wall here. And that's where he tends to make some of his mistakes. So he makes as many bad passes as good passes in some games where, it's because he got kind of not like Brown, but it's because he gets locked in. I don't think I feel like he's not, I don't know if it's the game has to slow a little bit. He's just got to see it. He has to see it a little bit better at times. I think he just ends up places sometimes and he's like, I don't want to be here, or it was hard getting here and I'm knocked off my spot and there's two guys here and this guy blitzed and, and I got driven further out than I wanted to be. And now I'm still dribbling the ball and there's 8 seconds left on the clock. So now I got to do something. He ends up in those situations a little too often.
So throw Durant out the window. We've been talking about that forever.
I mean, he's insane. Right.
It's not even it's not even there. He's not that tall. He's not the shot maker Durant is. And just there's a million different things that make Durant much better than Tatum.
I don't think
can he beat Paul George?
Yeah, it's not fair to compare Durant. It's all it comes down to is, what the type of player that.
Yeah, he was trying to make a point. The point was you can't be Durant, Bobby. That is his point. That's why the Celtics are what they are.
No, but we're comparing him to the wrong person.
But I'm saying is Tatum is playing a style of game like a Durant, which is clear out, go up, shoot it, and then make it, and everyone's like, oh, damn, it's just not happening enough. That's the whole point is then you just become a chucker. Unless you're doing it, he has to be a more efficient scorer if he's not hitting those contested shots all the time. Then he just can't take as many of them, which means he has to evolve his game and just pass up more shots or be a little quicker in his decision-making or whatever. But you can't just rely on Tatum 1 out of 5 nights having one of those nights when they're falling but have the same approach every single night, because it's just not going for him anymore. And
he's got to be the kind of guy that can get off the ball and do some of the things he did earlier in his career. Last couple of nights, seeing Brown be the man on the ball and seeing Tatum really struggle off of him, that's concerning, because we see the same thing with Brown too. Tatum will be rolling and Brown will get stuck in the corner. So there's got to be ways for them to interact and benefit from one of them having a great night. Again, we're not asking for them to combine for 60 every single game here, but you don't want Brown to have the game on Monday yet against Indiana and have Tatum have a game where he's 1 assist, 8 turnovers, and really poor shooting. It can't just be one or the other every single night. These guys need to find a happy medium here. It doesn't have to be tonight. Tonight was ridiculous. You're going to win every time they have games like they had tonight. But can you score, let's say, 25 and 20, 25 and 17, Like, can that become a more steady, like, night in and night out thing?
Yeah,
for
I
these
feel
guys?
like when they were going their best, we don't have the numbers in front of us, but it was more like one guy would be the super alpha, like the 32-point scorer, but the other guy would have 25. Like there wasn't this wide disparity like we're having now, where like the other guy is. It feels like one guy has a good game and the other guy shoots 6 for 20. With 7 turnovers and he has to get bailed out. There's been too many of those. But again, it's half the people in the chat are going to say it's the talent around them. It's the talent around them. Brings us back.
That's such a big part of it.
Brings
It
us
really
back a
is.
little bit to Smart. And again, this is the thing: is it's hard to have these conversations about Marcus Smart without sounding like you have an agenda or saying that Smart is bad. He's not bad, but is he the guy that they need? That these guys need to help them to make their lives easier? I think the answer is clearly after 40 games, no. It doesn't mean Smart is bad. It doesn't mean he doesn't have tremendous value to the Celtics. At this point, though, I don't know that he's making their lives easier in a demonstrable way.
Just because shooting's so important,
Yeah.
and you're already lacking at the floor.
Because, like I said, you don't have to account for Smart. So it's really not a worry. Even if he does set him up, nobody's got to worry that Smart's going to beat you. So the attention's still going to those guys.
Yeah, and they're the only ones that can get shots off in that starting unit. You have 2 bigs who just are zeros in that regard right now. You have a point guard who very rarely has efficient, quality scoring nights. And then it's just those 2 trying to beat crowds inside, trying to get the fast break going. It's so hard. It's brutal for these 2 to score.
That's what bugs me
right
about
now.
the Smart conversation is you're not saying bad things about Smart if you're saying they need a better playmaker. It's just saying Smart does other things well, but not this thing that they need right now. And it becomes everyone gets so defensive about it. I think Smart is okay.
You want Smart to be valued and loved around the league because then he can get you something great back.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Your pal Keith over at Celtics blog wrote the most grim trade primer I've ever read in my life. And I don't disagree with anything he wrote, none of it. But it is, when you see it on paper laid out that way, it is so freaking grim. And it's basically, why won't the Celtics be able to trade anybody? And it was, obviously you have the untouchables, in Tatum and Brown, but under the category of hard to move is Marcus, Robert Williams, and Josh Richardson. Williams, because he has the poison pill, and also you don't want to move him. But under hard to moves, Marcus Smart and Josh Richardson, simply because, as we've always said with Smart, he has more value to you than he has to anyone else. And that's
what's the killer line in there, though? The 77 having negative value.
4 years and $77 million can be tricky to work around because not every team will view that deal as positive value.
That's crazy.
But the truth
you made that deal in some regard, hoping that it would make him more.
I don't know why they made that deal, because I thought that I've always felt that Marcus Smart has way more value to you than he does to anyone else. And so whatever you pay him, no one else is going to want to pay him that. No one else is going to want to give assets for him and pay him that.
Right.
It's a lot.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yes, it's a lot. Could some team have fit him in? Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, you're gonna do everything you can to match the salary, but you're not gonna get this up and coming young player. You're not gonna get all these picks. Like, he's just not that type of guy. I mean, if they didn't extend him, we would, the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks going into the trade deadline, would be like, they have to move Marcus Smart. They absolutely have to move Marcus Smart. Wouldn't it be, Bobby?
I don't know. It could go both ways.
That's a yes. Okay. I mean, it would be.
Really
let's be honest.
Like, if you listen, right? Like, if we're going down the line here, aren't we? I hate the notion that, like, and I've seen this, that, like, oh, you got to make Smart the point guard and give him a chance. Give him a chance. He's been here a decade. He's been a point guard with a million different teams here, and I get it. He doesn't have the ball in his hands all the time, and it's not his full responsibility. But when is it ever going to be that? He's always going to be in the same role he's in right now here. And at times it's great, and at times the shooting just kills you. So we all agree. Everybody in the universe says you can't trade Brown. So then you're going to take a step down the roster to the next spot and say you can't trade Smart either. And then what? You can't trade Rob, and then all of a sudden you're that Bleacher Report article saying we have Romeo, Neesmith, and Grant, and then you're nowhere. You can't change the roster at all. So like Smart's everything, right? Like he is the guy who, if you're not trading Brown, has to get you somewhere. And of course, it's not going to be a monstrous return for Brown, but can it be different? Can it be something that fits better next to the Jays?
Isn't this what I've been saying?
Yes,
It's where we're at.
Bobby, I'm losing my mind right now. You've been saying how good Marcus Smart has been, and how important he is for this team for like ever.
No, he is. But at the same time, you want to parlay that into, and I feel the same way about Rob too. Like, great, Rob's playing amazing now. He's becoming a game in, game out player. All of a sudden, hopefully, that makes his trade value higher because
And
you
again,
need to change the mix
absolutely.
here.
But
He
be
said that
careful.
Consolidate.
Yes, you just got to be careful with Rob because the value on his contract is incredible.
But
so
that
It is.
makes it a tradable asset.
which makes him very attractive after this year because the salary matching is a little tricky this year because of the poison pill.
He gets you further toward it, though.
He's 3.8 to you and whatever it is to someone else, so it's a weird matching.
The question we got to ask is who we want, right?
If somebody is like Robert Williams is the future, and I love this guy, and is going to friggin' start to give you stuff, hell yeah. You know, it's just the problem is, I think you're trading Robert Williams for another thing that you need and then losing that thing that you have instead of like rolling him up into a star because there's not enough assets to go along with him. I think Robert Williams only gets
Depends
you so
how
far.
good he gets, you know. If
No,
but you're not there yet, and that's the whole thing is if he gets better, you're really not going to want to trade him. Rob Williams has to be traded at a point where there's still a chance he's not going to be really, really good. He'll only be this good because if he gets better than this, even by a little bit starting next year, it really doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
He's on a really good stretch of play right now.
It stops making sense. It stops making sense to trade him because I don't know that you can get better than him.
Mm-hmm. Well, unless
it's more like it would be more a trade for fit reason, right? Like you would need like again, like if you're looking for that point guard somewhere, you know, you have to give up, but then now you have no presence down low. So it's like
the good news
you're
is
Peter to pay Paul. It's almost, you know, it's hard, and that's why we've said how the draft is so important and how they've screwed it up royally. Because had they hit on anybody, you know, maybe we're not having this conversation on you know missing.
I really think your best bet at the end of the day, there's going to be more buyers than sellers at the market. So you're really hoping that people will overpay for something that you have.
But not this year. I just don't see it happening this year.
No, not like Brown or Rob, meaning one of the lesser assets. You know, you're hoping someone will be like, I kind of need this. Like I said, I keep using PJ Tucker as my dream scenario. PJ Tucker is whatever. First round pick for PJ Tucker.
He had such an allure around his name, though.
You know, I mean, that's crazy to me. So, like, if someone thinks like this guy is what I need or whatever, fine, great. I'll consider that.
That would be like Schroeder on your team.
Yeah,
a veteran, a guy that can come in and make a difference. I mean, the thing about PJ Tucker, I think, was that he was kind of tough. He's tough. He's a veteran. He can do a couple of things pretty well. But yeah, I mean, he's at this point, especially he kind of is who he is. But man, if the Celtics had a guy like PJ Tucker, that would be great. Like that's the thing. It's like I don't know if the Celtics are buyers or sellers. I don't know if they know. You know what I mean? Like here we are at 500, the worst place you can be.
They're stuck. You look at it and it's like, oh, they can just keep looking at the situation here, especially with those guys extended and say, let's just ride it out. Let's just see if Smart clicks with the Jays and let's see if Rob gets better and let's see if these young guys. And that would be so frustrating. I mean, what are we going to do opening night next year after another 500 season when they're courting Smart, Brown, Tatum, Rob, and Grant?
But let me continue on Keith's piece here because again,
don't use that phrase, Jimmy.
Let me continue here because it was pretty thorough. We went from the Richardson, Smart, Williams that they're going to be, hard to trade. Then it was hard to trade vet, and it's Horford. So a lot of us are like, maybe some team will like Horford, and Keith kind of pours water on that one as well.
Well, you get the half wave with him next year if he really starts to collapse, which is useful.
It still means he's got to be part of a large-ish deal, and so on his own, it just doesn't seem likely to move. and it's a big chunk of change to like, it's still 14 and a half. So you can't, even the half deal, you can't view it as an expiring because you're still on the hook for 14. So you're not trading and expiring. You
It
still
just
got to
gives
pay
you
the
a little
14
more
and a half.
flexibility below the tax and below the hard cap if you want to make a sign and
So
trade.
this was the best line in this. He wrote, on the court, Horford's game is like listening to someone speak live when you've been listening to them on 2 times speed on a podcast. It's sort of the same, but it feels a whole lot slower. I mean, we're not the only ones who noticed that Al Horford is definitely
It's brutal. It's devastating.
The jump in juice he had in the first like 10 games, 8 to 10 games this season, where we're like, holy crap, Fountain of Youth is gone.
He was all defense first team for a while.
He's still serviceable. And then the guys who said the very tradable vets, Schroeder, Freedom, and Hernan Gomez. And every deal I've seen for Schroeder suggested out there is a second, 2 seconds, so it's just not much of a trade.
No, you hope you can maybe find a young player for him that makes equal money or something. You're Romeo. I saw an interesting thing out there today that they're looking at Jeff Green and Jalen Smith. Now, Green.
Why are those things? Why is Jeff Green interesting?
He's not. I don't. We were there.
I'll say this about Jeff Green: one of my least favorite players of all time. So if they go back to the well and bring Jeff Green back, that might be it for me. Honestly, that might be it for me.
That's it.
That might do it. Like
I mean, you put him at the 4.
Jimmy,
I don't know if you can.
Jimmy, I want the microphone back if that's the case.
Yeah.
Nope. It was a gift,
Green. You put Green at the 4. It's probably a better fit than Horford, right? Like, it's all about the price there. You're not going to pay a ton, but if it's 2 seconds like Fournier, he's on a 2-year deal, so he's not expiring. Fits in the TP or whatever it would be there. You go with that. And, maybe you send Schroeder to Denver with their point guard issues that they've had and, give them a little more depth there. You hope that you can flip Schroeder for something that actually helps you a little bit now. So you're not just getting a couple second-round picks and derailing your team in that regard. I'm not crazy on Green either. I don't think it changes anything here at all. Makes you feel better about the way they play and the style that they play on the team here. But is he a shoe-in to play over Richardson or even a Romeo? I'm not certain of that. But Smith's a guy who's interesting to me because this was the number 10 pick, maybe 12, 10 to 12 range in last year's NBA draft. He killed you in that last Phoenix game there, hit a bunch of threes. He's a shooting big, stretch guy with size. Phoenix declined his team option, which was just a killer because you trade for him now and you don't have the ability to re-sign him for anything real. You'd have to use your mid-level where I think you're capped at a minimum or just above the minimum. So it's a flyer on a young player who didn't work in another place. And I've said this a million times. They have to keep trying this. Find some young guys. If it's not Nesmith, Romeo, guys that you can buy into and develop there. There's Jalen Smith into the picture with you at the 4. Is he your backup 5 behind Rob long term? Is he a guy that you can keep at decent price control beyond this year?
I don't
no one else
him.
saw that interested in him.
No.
That's a good move you can make at the deadline, right? You're not going to reshape this team at the deadline and trade Brown and do all this crazy stuff, but you bring in a guy like Jalen Smith, a young guy that you believe in. And all of a sudden, it's like something that's a little more forward pointing here. It's not even a pick. It's a guy that you know what he can do right now. And he's been very available out of Phoenix this year. So I don't know what it would cost to get him. His value's certainly been killed by what they did with the team option there. So if you can buy low on him, go do it.
It's kind of shocking that they wouldn't pick up the option, right? I mean,
stunning. Stupid, right?
You have to be pretty bad, I feel like, to get your option. I mean, Grant Williams got his option picked up.
Everybody gets the option picked up. Yeah.
I mean, how bad is this guy?
They drafted him 1 calendar year ago. He wasn't great. He didn't play a lot as a rookie. He didn't play in the finals even when they lost Saric there. So they had some depth needs at the 5. But they've started playing him a little more since they declined that option here, and he's had some good games. He was a pretty well-regarded center in the draft. He went much higher. I mean, he went higher than Halliburton and some of the other mid-round guys last year who ended up being really good players. So that was a killer for Phoenix. But you keep a young player around and see what they can do for a couple of years, right?
You sit him on the bench and then maybe send him to Maine and then bring him back and play him in garbage time.
Yeah.
That kind of feels like a Brad type of a move, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, Bobby, it's not going to make any major waves, but you take a little bit of a flyer on a guy that had some promise,
I'd love to see
college.
them do something like that.
Sure, I guess if that's where we're at, I guess, right? I mean, filling the 10th spot in the rotation,
Here's his stats this year: 14 minutes a game, 49% from the field, 26 from three, 7.5 points a game, 5.3 rebounds.
Yeah.
So
this is gonna shock you. I haven't seen a lot of his stuff. I'm gonna have to fire up the YouTube
He's 21.
Reel and get a better idea of what he's capable of before I comment too much on my like or dislike for the trade.
In Boston,
But
and
I've said this before. I'm willing to try practically anything right now, anything at all. Like if you think you might like a guy out there on another NBA team, please go for it. Because honestly, what could be worse?
Here's what he showed over 6 games recently: 15 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, 38% from three, 85% at the line. And this guy is how tall? 6'10". So he's a big that can shoot.
Why wouldn't, again, I mean, it goes back to the question, why wouldn't they just pick it up? I mean,
I can't answer that question. I'm just talking about where we're at now.
Right. No, it's more of a it's more of just a rhetorical question, I guess.
Well, it was ridiculous. It was
but
a
here's
bad
the
move.
thing, though. This is the other thing we have to contend with is, you're not like a good team. Like you're 10th in the standings even after tonight's win, which means there's possibly 9 teams ahead of you just in this conference. Maybe even others if you're looking at Atlanta and New York behind you that have expectations, who also want stuff. So there is a strange thinking among Celtics fans that like, we want it, let's go get it. And again, whatever
this is a unique circumstance, though.
Whatever package the Celtics have to offer for anything, and that's even fringe guys, backup guys who'd be okay here. Every other team can offer more, and it wouldn't hurt them at all. That's the thing is like the Celtics are in such a weak position to improve their team because they have no real assets. Nothing. They can't. They'd have to grossly overpay because they just don't have anything.
Would you trade Romeo for him?
Yeah, but Romeo's nothing. Romeo's negative.
Well, Smith's kind of nothing right now.
Romeo is flat.
That's like a perfect example of what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, try it. Like, do it.
Try it, sure. But it's neutral value. You're right.
What if Phoenix likes Romeo?
That's exactly what you're hoping. I use this term all the time, but like that kind of the second draft, like you don't know what teams out there had Romeo high on their board who are thinking if we got him here, we'd make something of him. If one of those teams exists, go find them and send them Romeo and then get their guy that didn't work in their system in exchange. No question about it. Like,
and I was thinking of this trade at the gym tonight. That'd be the situation where all of a sudden we'd look in 2 weeks and it'd be like, Romeo's 20 points a game over the last 5. What happened out there in Phoenix?
That will absolutely happen. Romeo will be starting wherever they send him.
NBA Finals,
and he'll score like 18 points a game. And
we'll be watching
this is a great 3-and-D guy that Boston let go.
We'll be watching the NBA Finals, and Romeo will be starting at the 2. We'll just be like, no.
But like
both Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown said Ime's using them more in 2-man actions to force mismatches. Makes it easier. Exactly. It makes more sense if one of them is a primary ball handler, that what they're looking to do is draw attention and give it to the other guy. That's the most obvious thing that they should be looking to do.
I went through a bunch of film with Caitlin Cooper on Dome Theory yesterday, and there's this one play against Golden State, which is like maybe a month ago now at this point, where they just kind of line up Brown and Tatum in the same area. They have Tatum setting a pick for Brown, like it's kind of a fake screen, and then Rob setting a real screen, and he rolls, and Tatum pops out. Everybody goes up to see Tatum. Rob's rolling uncontested, and Brown just gets him for an easy lob. And it's like, why aren't these guys just playing off each other constantly? Why can't we do this every single time here? Like, this should just be what you do when you go on the floor. We're going to go play basketball tonight. Tatum's going to set some screens for Brown. Brown's going to set some screens for Tatum.
Yes.
Pass to each other a bunch.
Play a 2-man game. Like, how hard is that? Like,
and we're going to run some pick and roll with Rob.
It's really hard to get involved when Tatum's got the ball over here and Brown's in that corner. And, Tatum's dribbling this way into a double team. That Brown's not on the floor at that point. They have to run stuff and run the 2-man and run screens for one another. It makes perfect sense. So I'm glad that that's a thing that, was
and we've seen
a point of emphasis.
Remember,
Yeah.
Like we're seeing every game things that we never saw before, which is encouraging, right? Like it's a small step, but they're taking it now and they're staying with it. And it hasn't been even, but we're seeing now going on a couple weeks here the real commitment to making that work, and even just the communication tonight. Did you kind of see them? I know John loved that Tatum was on the bench at one point.
He did it. They were laughing and smiling together.
Yeah, they were talking in a timeout.
Hey, it wasn't
going
bad,
through
right,
stuff.
Jason?
Hashtag ban the bike.
It's almost like they didn't even think that this was like an issue, and all of a sudden they started hearing it everywhere, and it's like, oh crap, we have to talk to each other and like work these things out.
Yeah.
We can't just go out there and play and have it be automatic. Like it's almost like it was never even in their world that like they had to really try to make an effort to play together more smoothly, and now they're like trying to like catch up for the test or whatever.
Yeah,
they're cramming for the test here.
They were shoving buddies tonight. I loved it. Hey, you're fine. I like you. I like you.
I did love that moment though.
Don't jostle me.
There was a great moment where Tatum went to the bench and sat on the bike, and there is a bike there in Indiana, I guess too. Maybe they take it everywhere they go. And Gorman was like, "Oh, there goes Jason to his spot on the exercise bike."
Did he say that? I missed that.
He did. Did you hear that, John?
No.
Oh my God! I'll have to go back and watch it.
Oh, tell me where that is.
Everybody is now on bike watch.
Everyone's on the bike watch.
It was the third quarter, and Gorman was like, "There goes Tatum to his seat."
Bike watch 2022. Sorry, what year?
I
is
love
that?
I love one of our
Still
viewers.
2020.
One of our viewers tweeted at us that they should just replace the whole bench with bikes, just
with
bikes
the Peloton,
in a row.
like a whole Peloton class.
That's going to be like the year 2040. Everyone's in like a bubble just working out and like waiting to go into the game or something.
Oh my God, that was good. That was good. Gorman's gotten salty. Jimmy, you texted and he was like, "Did he just say that guy sucked?" I'm like, or whatever it was,
Oh, the pass sucked. Yeah.
He was like, he goes, terrible pass.
Yeah, like rarely do you hear like that type of commentary from him,
And then like, he's tired of these guys. And the next time down, Tatum does something out of control, turns the ball over, and then fouls. And then he goes, "Well, Jason turned it over," and there he is complaining to the officials again. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like years ago, he would have just had like a call, like the pass, the pass is picked off by the opposition, or so, something stupid like that. And this instead of just like terrible pass, and they're back the other way. Like,
what I want to see happen next game? I want to see Tatum start the game and then go to come out and go to the bike and have like Ennis just be on it and just see what he does.
Yeah.
Like, would he be like
a Wancho on there?
Yeah, Wancho's just there. Like, I thought I'd ride it.
Mm-hmm.
We only got one.
Great.
It is funny though. You go back into Twitter and you type like Tatum bike, and there's like years and years of him doing this. So maybe that just is his thing. I don't like. It's so weird. I know Gorman's been watching the game 40 years, and this is probably the first time he's ever seen someone take a obligatory seat on the bike instead of the bench. But who knows? Does it matter? I don't know. We just kind of left guessing there.
Like I said, it
does matter. It does matter, but like I don't want to sound like a boomer about it. It does matter because
it's weird. That's all there is to it.
It's weird. It's not like, oh my God, the Celtics are crumbling. It's not like that, but it's just like
if he was going there and pedaling and really like it was keeping him warm and it was part of his like routine, we wouldn't even blink. But he goes over there and sits and hangs out.
He just sits there and like
the reason
expressionless stares.
The reason it matters because like I just want to see you sitting with your teammates talking about what just happened or maybe what can you do differently or better. I'd rather you get mad at your teammate.
It's insane to not talk about when we get back out there. We should do more of this. It's insane to me. Like I'd be your rec league coach would scold you if you weren't watching the game or you were over on the side.
Maybe it's because when they stagger the lineups, he ends up going to the bench sitting next to Ennis, Romeo, Neesmith, and what is he going to tell any of those guys? They're not going in the game.
Right.
No, it just goes back to leadership qualities, and like that's just something that it's the little things like that I look for. in
Right.
guys.
You want him getting up
And
off
he
the
says
bench,
he did some pedaling
waving a
tonight.
towel at your guy. You can't support your team from there, even the ones on the court. Forget talking strategy or the camaraderie. You love it when the starters
Right.
get off the bench and they're supporting people, and when they're doing well and this and that. That's kind of part of like vibe. Like, what did you love about like the 2008 Celtics? Like, KG sitting there laughing his ass off
They're a
during
team.
Geno time, or
Right.
flipping out when like a bench guy would do something, or constantly clapping and making noise. That the bench mob attitude is a fun thing, and it adds to the chemistry and camaraderie of the team. It's so strange to opt out of it,
What do you
I know
think of
that's the
Richardson?
thing. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess.
It's odd.
Like,
It's odd.
What do you
Yeah.
think of Richardson quipping about it in the IG comments there? I know, you did a little write up on that, John.
I look, like I said, I don't think it's an issue. I think he likes Tatum. I think he thinks it's funny and kind of weird. And I think that's probably what most people are like. I guess that's what he does. I don't think they're mad,
no,
but I do think they're probably like,
they acknowledge that it's a thing.
that's a thing he does.
It's gonna become a thing in the coming weeks here.
I 100% think so.
Listen, we've all, anyone who's been on a team and if there's a kid that's, or a guy on their team that's distancing himself from the rest of the guys, like that's usually not a good vibe or a good look for like that person. And like,
or even with the coaches, right? Like, forget the teammates.
What's he like? What's his deal, kind of thing?
Can he be over there like talking through something with Will Hardy or whoever's on the bench there, or like
Who knows?
having a little chat with Ime?
How about be coached?
Yeah.
There's like 5 coaches there.
Right.
It is funny, but like with the Gorman stuff, taking his little shots and this and that, it is interesting because these guys are around the team. They
not as much as they used to be.
Not as much as they used to, but they do get a sense of them. And I do think, when it's very clear Gorman's vibe is like there's something off about
even
these guys.
Last year he was the same last year.
Everybody in the country looks at this team and says there's something weird going on here.
There's
it's not
something
a secret.
off. You can't figure it out. There's something off. You know what, though, I like? Here's the one place I'll be bullish on this. We've been saying it for a while. It's something's wrong. They're not getting it. They're not meshing. They're not doing whatever. But I think for the first time in their careers, Tatum and Brown are now acknowledging it. Before they were like haters, and this is BS. I think actually this is like the first time where there's a little bit of
see it on the court,
looking in the mirror for, and for Brown, back-to-back post-game comments for Brown to say, we talked about it. How do we play better together? That's an uncomfortable conversation Josue's been talking about, because before it's like, screw that, we're both awesome basketball players, these guys don't know. And now they're like, yeah, maybe we should kind of figure out how we can do this better together. And then Tatum to say something, which is the most encouraging thing Tatum's ever said about the Celtics in the last post game, was, I want to do it here. I've never heard him say that.
Brown said something to that effect too, right? Like, we
never heard him say that
in here. Yeah,
it was always, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And it was about self-improvement, but it never tied to Boston. I want to get better. I want us to get better. I want to do it here, was like the most reassuring thing I've ever heard him say. So them acknowledging it is actually a good thing.
Isn't that credit to Ime too? Like, this is
it
what
might be. That's why
here.
I'm not down on Ime like the guy. But yeah, that could be part him. It also could just be year 2 of kind of getting kicked in the, whatever, that they've realized, like, you do have to have some self-reflection when it's just not, when you're consistently not seeing results.
Yeah. Hearing it from people.
I mean,
often.
I don't get too, I mean, after the whole Kyrie saga where he was like, oh, I'd love to stay if you have me, blah, blah, blah. I mean, players are going to say stuff like that, but I've been waiting for any sort of sign that Tatum and Brown like genuinely want to be here and like play here long term. And even now, like, I thought last year was like the lowest of lows for this organization in terms of Celtic pride and, all that stuff. So it was nice to see that quote. And I'll actions speak louder than words. So I'll wait to see how that translates on the court and off the court, and we'll go from there. But I mean, obviously you want to hear your stars say that stuff.
We talked a lot about them too. Can you split them up? Can you do this? Can you do that? When I just think of like what we do every day, we're texting back and forth about the team, and we hate watching this group going on 2 years here, and we don't see a lot of hope for the front office, and just their long-term outlook as an organization right here. Even the young guys were like, can they do a little something? But there's not really much going on there. The reason we still get locked in and the reason the Garden's still kind of, it's not sellout, but there's still a lot of people there getting excited and there's still a bunch of people on Twitter locked into this team every night is because if these two work, you still really have something pretty special here. Like these are two like upper echelon young wings who, if they figure it out and if you put the right pieces around you, there's still hope that this core can win a championship at some point. So that's like what this is all about here. This is why no one wants to see them split up, because even if you feel better about the fit or you get some prospects or something, there's nothing left that really makes you special. And I know you'll kind of gripe at that word there, John, that they're an under 500 team special. But like they are still two guys that everybody in the league looks at and says, these guys are pretty special here.
I know, but that's the thing is like,
but there's a lot of special
we
guys.
joke about it like
but you have some of them. If you didn't, we'd just be like, oh, who cares about this
I understand,
game?
but they are in year 5 and 6, and this season's going nowhere. So next year in year 6 and 7, yes, they were ascending talents, and they are people who are highly regarded in the game. But there's a flood of talent coming in every year. There's people who are getting better. There's people who are going from good to great. There's people who are going from borderline all-stars to superstars like Morant, and those people are leapfrogging you. So you are now, 2 years ago, you'd say, what duo would you rather have than Tatum and Brown? Now you start looking around and be like, there's a few.
What about Morant and Bane? Yeah.
It's getting interesting because, like I said, there's a lot of talent in the league. So you can't just rest on we're talented. You got to do stuff.
You can't rest on your roster. I mean, you look at the results.
You're
this year.
5 and 6. I know they're young, but it's year 5 and 6. Okay, this is a different game and it's a different era. I don't care the age; it's the experience. So they've been playing professional basketball at a very high level in critical moments, in deep playoff runs. It's going to be year 6 and 7 next year. There's no room
they're
for
certainly part of it.
Right.
They're certainly part of it. And you look at why'd everybody leave and this and that, who knows? It could have been just the approach of these guys or just, their trajectory. You heard Kyrie griping about the young guys and this and that, and just maybe their approach to things here. Who knows? Like there's going to be a story written one day of what the hell is going on here and why things are so screwed up over the last few seasons here.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we talk about, is it them? Is it the team? It's probably the team. Right? Like they look much better and they put up much better numbers on a much better team. And you look at the organization and you're like, what are you kind of doing here with the tax and with, Brad and just the trajectory and what's going on up above? Tatum and Brown, in terms of what they're doing and who they are, players, are pretty down the list of your concerns here with what's going on with the organization, right?
They're in terms of talent. In terms of a talent, they're 2 9s or 9.5s, and the next closest guy is a 6 or a 5. It's a huge disparity between them and
you don't even know about the coach yet, and I get why people go there because we know who Brown and Tatum are. We don't know who Ime is.
But yeah, coach. It's the same convo we have, and Jimmy's mentioned it a million times, as well. Is the fit thing? That's something that's so hard to put your finger on.
Or the mix, is it stale?
Yeah,
Caitlin said that on Dome Theory. Like, it just could be a stale mix. Do you just feel better being next to a different point guard than Smart? That's a real thing, like.
Stale is a very good word for this team, I think. And like, I know maybe like all the people.
Brad got stale. That's why he's kind of gone, right?
I mean, a lot of people watching this show are diehard Celtics fans, and we love everybody watching the show. But there's a lot of non-diehards or casual fans who are so turned off and tuned off and just bored of this team, starting from Jason Tatum all the way down. Like,
yeah, we should have moved off.
That's the reality. Like, it's a very boring team, and like a lot of casual basketball fans aren't interested at all in the Boston Celtics. That's just
we should have moved off. We should have moved off Smart
a while ago.
Last year, they should have done it.
Hey. Your ball thing was on point.
I know, but I mean, I don't know if it was realistic or not, but that was
but like, say you did it 2 years earlier and
that
you
was
really
my
made that a
dream.
priority. Clearly, New Orleans didn't have much of a priority in keeping him, or you'd still be there.
You can't wait for sure things. You've got to
talk about bad moves, Jimmy. What the hell were the Pelicans doing getting rid of Ball? Crazy.
Everyone
had so
convinced
many
themselves he was the narrative around Ball was he's not even really a true point guard. He's really more of a wing. And the numbers people were throwing out, and here's what he does as a point guard. X, Y, and
He's
Z.
so good.
He's so friggin' good, man.
He's one of the best shooters in the league, period, at this
You've
point.
gotta. I hate putting the nail in the Marcus coffin because one game he didn't play and Schroeder played well, but that's not it. You know where I've felt about Marcus. He has value, but let's not freaking overdo it. But you're right. Now you're counting on him for a lot, and I don't know that's the right.
And I don't agree with the people who say, like, you put him in as a point guard and really direct things around him and it's going to be great. Like, we've seen about as close as you can get. What is he going to have the ball in his hands all game, every game? Is that what people want, to finally see him, like, reach his potential?
But
listen, I love him. I love his game. I was texting you guys after that article ran the New York Times. It's going to be a huge bummer when he goes because he's a guy who plays is the closest to that style when everybody really loved this team back there in those Isaiah years and even into the early Tatum years. But at this point, he's been here a decade. The upside left in his game isn't substantial. And, you've just lost so much talent. You'd love to have this guy be the sixth man on this championship team, but that's just gone.
We've been saying that for a while. He's a great jack of all trades man, the game what it needs. But when you rely on what we talked ourselves into with Marcus at the beginning of this year was, who knows, maybe given the keys to the car as the point guard on his own, maybe we'll see something we haven't seen yet. That was the sunny outlook of Marcus Smart, which we will give him the benefit of the doubt to see if this happens. It's only 40 games. It hasn't happened. He's okay.
And Smart's been really good this year.
He hasn't, Bobby. No, he hasn't. His numbers are down in every category.
You look at the analytics when he's on the court. Let's go back to the conversation at the beginning.
He has always been a good defender. You are asking him to be more. He has not stepped up to be the more you wanted him to be. He has returned to the guy who was a really good defender 2 years ago. And that's all that's happened. Was the defense, which slipped last year, is back up. But he's the same guy who wasn't a starter 2 years ago, but with worse overall numbers across the board. Field goal percentage, turnovers, assists are down. Even last year, assists are down over last year when he wasn't the true point guard. So everything is down this year. He's not having a good year, and he's not been terrific in that role at all.
He's never been a stats guy, but you look at
the
offense.
But it's not a stats thing. When you asked him to be more this year, and he has not been more. He has not.
I think he's been more. He's driving more. He gets quite
but he's
a bit
not
of free
making
throws
them.
Still. No, it's not about him, though. It's what he's doing to direct the offense. When he's on the court,
he's not doing a great job of that.
When he's on the court, they shoot 4% better effective field goal, which is 92nd percentile of any player in the league. I mean, that's not a joke. Like, that's a pretty good stat right there. And everything they do offensively, his net rating, everything when he's out there is much higher. It may be
a matter of value over replacement, and it's not necessarily indicative of.
But we're talking about Schroeder. Would you rather have him or Schroeder?
It's not necessarily indicative of him being good, and Schroeder started a ton of games this year.
Don't even bring Schroeder into this. It's just about Marcus Smart, and it's just about that. It's not even about comparing the two. You can say that Marcus Smart on the court is better than what the team is with him off the court. This doesn't necessarily mean that he's been great this year. Yeah, they don't have anybody else. That's why he's playing point guard to begin with.
That's the point. It's value over replacement. There really isn't much else there, so of course it goes up in his presence.
But it's relative to the league, 92nd percentile. I mean,
it isn't differential over the next guy on your team. It's a stat. It's a Celtics stat.
No, it's the league
that you're applying to. It's this much percentage better when he's on the court versus not
when he's not there. Yeah,
because who's the person who'd be there when he's not is bad. That's the problem. It's a Celtic stat, not a league stat. So again, it's not.
But you would think him being out there, the shooting issues, they'd be a worse shooting team, but they're getting better shots when he's out there. He's a great offensive director. He doesn't get all the assists.
He's not great. He's okay. He's okay. He's not great.
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. I've enjoyed his season quite a bit.
It's really not been great.
He hasn't been. He's not a detriment out there. No one's saying that. It's just like that's.
He's a great passer. He really is.
people.
He's not great. He's
people
good.
who
He's
like
not.
Marcus Smart.
He's a pretty good passer. He's not a great passer.
Marcus Smart, and that's fine. But like
his passing's limited by his own offense, and you look at his own offensive numbers, and they're bad.
You got a guy who can catch the ball 15 feet above the rim,
and who finds him most,
which account for half of Smart's assists, and then you have two top 15, wing scorers out there. You're telling me he doesn't have people he can give the ball to who will do the rest of the work? Throw it in the air and Rob will fly and get it, or literally pass it to this guy who's a scorer. Like, it's not crazy to think that there's people around him that can make him look better.
Yeah, but he doesn't always have the ball. You'd like to...
I know, but I mean, we just keep making excuses. Can we just say that he's okay? He's okay,
good.
But
he's
not,
a good point guard.
He's okay, but he's not the answer, and he's not. He's just is what he is.
His passing skills.
What's your point, Bobby? What's your ultimate point? You just want to make the point that you think he's better than we think he is?
Yes, he's a great passer in my mind.
Okay, fine.
And
fine.
does the passing get knocked down to good or average?
He's great.
No, by his shooting and his finishing and all the different things.
We have people writing articles saying that his contract is a negative. Like we and you're sitting there telling us that he's having the best season of his career.
I think he's had an excellent season. You look at his defense too. I mean, it's a different thing here, but it's part of the equation. So I'll be very interested to see the kind of value he can draw. And again, like, you'd love to keep him here, but who are you going to get rid of? What kind of moves are you going to make to shake up the roster? You can't just keep saying no all the way down.
It's an offseason.
I am where I am.
It's going to be a major offseason for the Celtics. And I don't even know who the hell's pulling the strings. I don't know if we talked about this briefly in our chat. Is Brad even allowed to, I don't even know what his job title is.
Tax implications.
Right. I mean, is Wick going to allow Brad to do whatever he wants, or is Brad just here to finish out his contract? And then I just don't know. There's so many question marks around this organization right now. I'm waiting for the Wick media tour that's going to come soon.
I'm surprised that hasn't come already.
Yeah, it's going to come soon, I think. We'll be on 95 Sports Up soon, I think. I don't know.
No one likes my smart defense here.
I'm not gonna lie, but I'm always reluctant to open my mouth because I know I'm viewed as having a smart agenda. My smart agenda is not Marcus is bad. My smart agenda is Marcus is a great sixth man who gives your team a lot, and having a guy like him on a good team is extremely valuable. But when you count on him I use the analogy again, Bobby. I've used it on the text thread. You can have in a hockey, you can have a great third line center, or a punt returner who's spectacular at what he does, or a special teamer. Matthew Slater's great. If you make Matthew Slater your wide receiver too, I'm just saying, if you get a guy who does a lot of little things well, like the third line mucker and grinder, and you put him on the top line, you're going to be disappointed in his production. Doesn't mean he's bad. He's just miscast. So Marcus Smart as this lead role, ball handling, playmaking point guard that's supposed to help unlock the Celtics offense isn't the guy. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
He's too high up the ladder.
Think about it. I mean, yeah. If Kyrie had stayed, is Marcus Smart your point guard? I mean, he's in the perfect role for himself. He might be the 2 or he might be the 6th man. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't originally thought of to have this role in the team. So we don't have to pretend that he's crushing it in that role.
Yeah.
Because he's not. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to lie. Everyone here has eyes. Everyone's an educated enough sports fan and can see. And we don't have to tell anybody what they're seeing. They can see it. They can see that Marcus Smart has his warts. And he's not
tough because he's bouncing between.
Bobby, if Evan Lazar friggin' sprains his ankle heading into this weekend's game, I'm sending you to cover the Patriots. You might not do as good a job as Evan Lazar. It doesn't make you a bad reporter, okay?
Yeah, but you're not a Patriots. You're
not a Patriots guy, okay? Just isn't.
These are some crazy analogies. I don't even know how to respond to them.
And Bobby, your defense, nobody could back up Lazar. He's an absolute maniac.
He's a legend. So let's wrap it up. We've been going a bit. Fun show.
I wanted to say one thing.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
We're talking about point guards, and I saw this on Twitter yesterday. The idea of Mike Conley would there, and there's no rumors or anything like that, but it was just thrown out.
No, someone's thrown out. Yeah, I like that. That was thrown out recently as what would you consider,
right?
I think that is honestly, if you really want to save or give this team a real chance, that's the perfect type.
You're talking
player.
Brown though, Jimmy.
No. I'm saying you're not talking Brown for Mike Conley.
Yeah, who else are you gonna give up for Conley?
I mean,
Smart.
Conley is like in his
They do
third.
Conley for Smart?
I don't know. I would.
If you're Utah?
Yeah, but what if Danny Ainge wants Smart?
Ooh. That's interesting. No,
Exactly.
Conley's expensive. He's getting a little bit old. I mean, listen, you don't snub your nose
But
at if you can get him for
Bobby,
Smart.
let's say, I mean, the time is now. I mean, right? I mean, if you can do that's a Phoenix Suns type move where they got a Chris Paul, they unlocked Booker, and then now look at them. Like if the Celtics could get a guy like Conley, an All-Star last year, yeah, he's a little bit older, and yeah, he has a high contract. I mean, that's why he's possibly maybe a long shot to be available. So
let's
again,
say
like
Smart and Richardson, maybe you gotta get them a wing somehow.
What is funny is this is basically just an extension of what we would be texting each other if we stopped broadcasting. This show,
instead of getting the 3 a.m. text from Bobby, just get it out there now.
This show could have been over 30 minutes ago, but instead of you and me arguing with Bobby on text, we're just airing it out here for everybody to hear.
So true. Everyone's
Might as well, right?
Group text right now.
We're gonna put a premium subscription out there to have a live view of the group chat at all hours of the day.
Yeah, we just invite 3 people into the group chat.
It is funny.
We'll
do a Spaces soon too.
So let's do Spaces Friday. That would be a great.
I
game
might
to
do
after.
Spaces Friday. I don't want to drag only people.
Saturday we got Pats.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know. Conley's. Listen. I'm not gonna snub my nose at any idea. Obviously Simmons threw Brunson out there, popular name, free agent, guy that's gonna be available this offseason.
Brunson's
younger
awesome.
guy,
but he's kind of reminds me of Smart a little bit.
He's shorter, and the defense isn't gonna be there, so that's what you're giving up in that exchange. There is a question here too, giving up Smart for another point guard. If you get like a Kemba type, are you just gonna get nailed by opposing point guards night in, night out, and you're kind of doing the Trae Young thing there? That's not an experience you want to be in without Smart. Like Smart helped you through those days back in the day. So yeah, when you're thinking of trading Smart for a point guard on his level, that is something you have to consider there. But listen, I'm open to anything. I'm open to Brown ideas. I don't want to trade Brown, but I'm listening to them. I just want to hear what's available out there. And Conley, I don't know why the Jazz would move him. If you want to say Danny wants Smart back bad, and maybe we just got a Kevin McHale situation here, and he's going to save the Celtics like McHale did. I don't see it happening, but I'm willing to listen. Conley's
that would be beneficial to Danny because he would say, "See, I was right with Tatum and Brown. Those were great."
And he has Mitchell as the main point guard there. There's a world where that's a possibility. Conley's 33 and he's on a 21 this year, 22 next year, and a 14 guaranteed at a 24 in 24. So it's not a ridiculous contract. He's a good player still. He can shoot some, he can defend some, and he can play make. I've always loved
honestly
his game.
The point guard that we're all talking about that the Celtics need. So if you're not willing to make that trade, then you're obviously not interested in getting.
So John, you think there's a possibility they would do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's just I don't know.
This year he's 42% from 3.
Yeah.
5 assists.
I don't know. I don't know.
Jimmy.
Nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. So everything is going to be good. Almost every deal you make is going to be like, was that good? Does that make us better?
I think people would be excited if that happened.
I think so too. But there's nothing, nothing is certain. So let's wrap it. I'll let everybody know again. Just a quick reminder: we're back Friday. We're doing Philly, and then there'll be a show on Saturday. But there will also be a Patriots show because the Patriots play.
Big Pats game. Big Pats game.
Yeah.
John, do you have a prediction yet, or are you holding out?
Yeah. Any chance the Pats win?
I think it's possible because I just don't think Buffalo is unbeatable. I think there's a gear. There's a version of Buffalo that kind of stinks.
Yeah.
I put the Pats at 25% chance. Maybe that's a little low, but I think their chance lies in the fact that it's the third game. And you give Belichick 3 games against any team, you gotta like your chances a little bit there. I mean, he's still the coach. Now, my issue is that the Pats just aren't as talented. They're
And
gonna
they've
have
been playing bad.
Yeah, they played horrible against the Dolphins. They're gonna have to figure out a way to slow down Josh Allen. Now it's gonna be 0 degrees. I don't know if the ball's gonna be whipping around. This might be another run-heavy game, which the Pats have
Can we
obviously
get the
shown that they can.
goalpost rocking again? I think that's what everybody's dreaming of. I
Well,
don't
here's
think
the
that
thing.
kind of weather's in store.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was such a fluke. I don't think the
That was
Patriots are
crazy. I've never seen a game like that.
Well, no,
no
that's
one
what
ever
happened.
has.
weirdest game ever. Jimmy, I'm still formulating my opinion. I hate being like have a recency bias with the Patriots. I've thought they're pretty mediocre for most of the year. I think they have to be functioning at a super high level and play near flawless football, and they're not doing that. Sloppy penalties, bad on special teams. Mac has started to get inaccurate. So
Right.
they got to be close to perfect. They just don't have enough talent and playmakers. I always feel like in these games they lose because the other teams have more playmakers than they do. And it always comes down to who's going to make plays. I don't feel like you can system your way to wins in the playoffs. So
Right.
I feel like they're deficient in that department. So they got to play next to perfect, and they might, and that'll be fine. I'm much happier that it's Buffalo a third time than an unknown with
Bengals.
someone, because I think Buffalo gave you their best shot, and I think you're going to come back with something a little bit better here. So
I don't know. Allen's so good. He is he's just a
He can't
guy
be
that
as good as
can.
he was last game, right? I mean, they're gonna have to.
He played a
throw stuff at him.
really great game last game. So,
But that's what he's capable of. He can get out there and run. He
they're
can
better.
boom
They're
it.
better
He
than
can-
you. They're better.
And they
than
got
you.
some great receivers too. Diggs, and who was the guy who killed them last game?
McKenzie killed him in the slot, and
Oh.
they might be down Mills. They might be down Duggar. That's going to be problems if that's the case. So we'll see.
And when I heard Bedard saying that, who's their great lineman there?
Judon?
Patriots, Judon. When I heard that he was getting benched last game and he's looking really bad, that's where I'm like, oh my god, this team's going in a bad direction if he's falling apart.
He's been looking bad, but Bedard started saying, just watching the film, that he's freestyling. He's doing the whole I'm just going to go get mine, and I'm just getting upfield after the quarterback, even when it's calling for a little bit of discipline or contain on the edge, or just got eyes on the quarterback, try to bat it down. Because you're wasting a lot of play.
I'm going to be very, very surprised if they win this. I won't be stunned or say wow, that's the biggest upset ever, but Buffalo is just a lot better than them, and
I'm
I
gonna be
can't
surprised.
see them
I
fouling out.
actually think this is gonna be the boringest playoff game of them all. Patriots, Bills, 2 boring teams in my opinion.
They could get killed. They could.
No, I don't think they're gonna get killed. I don't think they're
so.
gonna get killed. I just think the game is just gonna be one of those games. It's fun. That's gonna be a Saturday night game. Everyone's gonna have a blast regardless, but it's not gonna.
Saturday night, Jimmy.
You have one hope, and that Celtics game's pretty good Saturday too. That'll be a fun one, but make sure you're following us, because no one's going to be watching the Celtics, so you have to count on us to catch you up and say what happened.
You should absolutely do that, Jimmy. I mean, Bobby, I'm not saying I won't pop in, but I am on Patriots duty. I may make a guest appearance on the Celtics. Jimmy is out, but you will have Bobby and Joe Sway, so make sure you join us. We got double live shows that night. Evan Lazar will be in Buffalo covering the Pats. He and I will do something after the game, and Bobby, Joe Sway, maybe Sherrod, we're not sure, on Saturday covering that game. It should be fun. Joe Sway will actually be down at the Garden as well. So I left this graphic on the screen. Subscribe if you don't already. A lot of you guys, I think, are Patriots fans. If you haven't, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Awesome content over there. Lazar's film breakdowns, Patriots Beat podcast, Bedard's podcast. Lots of great stuff. So subscribe. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching. We will take this to text and we'll share some of it with you guys on Twitter. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Are you planning on keeping this turtleneck mustache 70s porno vibe look? Are you keeping this around? Because I just got a text from a good friend of mine asking if that was
the mustache has been here pretty much since the program started. It's been there since 2019, really. The turtleneck goes back to the UPS joke. I'm surprised that hasn't popped up when I've thrown it on.
It does. The brown.
What can Bobby do for you?
There's been a lot of comments on the outfits this year, which
there
I appreciated, good and bad.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
anyway, yeah.
they don't boo nobodies, Bobby. I say keep doing you, man. Keep wearing what you want to wear.
You kidding? Bobby's easily the most popular guy on this show.
By far.
It's not even close. So guys, thank you again for watching. We always appreciate you guys. Had a nice audience tonight.
Ooh, the Vegas look was a good one.
Vegas Bobby was so good.
The hat
Vegas
will be
Bobby.
back when the
Oh,
sun
you got to
comes
bring
out.
that hat back.
When the sun comes, I mean, it is. There's no sun to be had this time of year, so it's unnecessary.
Vegas
But
Bobby.
April will come.
That's where I stay this color, and you guys all turn into that color.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the sweat
winter.
pouring down Sherrod when we were out there.
I know.
Doing those stand-ups. It was legendary.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. We'll see you on Friday night, and then we got, like I said, the double barrel action on Saturday. Take care.